All right, we're going to have more on this tonight. Aaron, I think it's going to be back with us tonight as well on Brandon House Live. We'll get an update from all the normal folks that you're expected to hear from. And so there you go. Worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. Aaron is in Israel, lighttothenationsministry.com. Is that right, Aaron?
Correct, yes.
Lighttothenationsministry.com. All right, be safe, my friend. And again, we ask our audience to pray for Aaron and all of Israel, all the folks there, and for wisdom for their leaders, including Benjamin Netanyahu. And that'll be it. We'll get an update from Aaron tonight on Brandon House Live. All right, thanks for watching, and always thank you for your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Till later tonight in Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brandon House.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
This is wild. A mysterious black truck just passed out all of these expensive bionic face shields to protesters in LA, and the news caught it on camera. I zoomed in and found out this is the UVEX bionic shield. These are not cheap. They're around $45 to $65, and you can't just get them in bulk. But one place that sells them is Walmart. And why is that important? Because there's a new protest being promoted called No Kings on June 14th. And even celebrities like Chrissy Teigen are posting it. And it's in magazines and newspapers. And guess who's behind this message? Christy Walton. That's right, one of the billionaire heiresses, a part of the Walmart family. Now, I don't know why they would be behind that protest against President Trump, but remember, just less than 3 weeks ago, President Trump tweeted about the whole tariff situation, saying Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars of last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as is said, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. So, is it possible that maybe the Walmart family didn't like that and now they're finding ways to make their voices heard? Or is this just a big coincidence? As always, let me know what you think about all of this down below.
Well, welcome back to Truth Thursday, folks. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. And we're talking the truth about the NoKings.org direct action operations on Flag Day. And first of all, who's behind the June 14th nationwide set of ops under that NoKings.org banner? Well, first, let me say this. Saturday is Flag Day and the 250th birthday of the United States Army. So we should all be celebrating that. But there are those who want to destroy everything the country stands for, and we'll show you someday, or some of that today. Mrs. Walton there is just the tip of the iceberg. If you go to follow Data Republican on X, and if you're not following her, you should be, you're going to see every left-leaning, Marxist, Islamist, Antifa, violent extremist, politician, and left-wing funding organization known to us is behind this big day of defiance at nokings.org this coming Saturday. And I want to highlight just a little piece of it. It's called the AFL-CIO sponsorship. That's right. Data Republican exposes this and says the AFL-CIO, through a quasi-governmental solidarity center, that's a name, NGO, is one of our core soft power NGOs. And guess what? Just putting it bluntly, the AFL-CIO, as you can see on this chart, is one of the key taxpayer-funded organizations in affecting regime change all over the world. That they are openly involved in sponsoring the No Kings rally should raise extreme concerns as to the rally's purpose. What are they going to do with these operations? That's the big question. But from experience, my advice is to stay as far away from these ops as possible. They are not intended to be peaceful protests at all. If you want to observe and film them, do it from a safe distance. And don't carry any digital devices that could be connected to you personally. Take the other appropriate precautions so that you can't be identified and doxxed or accused of committing a crime that you didn't commit. You'll hear why in this episode. This is from today's guest on X. Quote, "The Proud Boys have infiltrated many of the anti-ICE group chats on multiple platforms. We have found that in the past 24 hours, there's been a heavy influx of messaging stating that they want to shift the blame of the violence going on in these cities on different Trump-supporting groups, including the Proud Boys. Let me be clear. There has been no plans to go to these events. Actually, it's the opposite." Close quote. This man really needs no introduction, but I'll just say, in my opinion, he's probably the Americans whose rights were most abused by our federal government over the January 6th fake insurrection, and he wasn't even there. Enrique Terrio, sir, welcome to the Rob Maness Show. It's good to have you.
Colonel, it's awesome to be here with you today. And like you said, I agree with you. I agree with that. A lot of these events are staged. A lot of these events are paid for by multiple groups, and we have the facts on our side. And not only do I think that they might turn violent, I also think that one of the reasons why they put these together is for networking. The more of them get together and be violent, the more they connect with each other, and they get on these signal groups, these Telegram group chats, and other encrypted networks. And then they plan, like you just saw, they plan this messaging, they plan events. So I think that this is a taste of what we're going to see. You might see a lull now in the spring through the winter. And I think that this is them organizing for next summer for something much worse than what we're seeing in the cities of Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and Atlanta.
Yeah. Through your through the infiltration ops, without exposing your OPSEC and breaking that, obviously, can you give the audience a taste of some of the things y'all are seeing and hearing inside these chats? Besides trying to blame you and us, anybody that believes in America essentially for violence that erupts, what are the other kind of things that you're seeing that really stick out that people should know about?
I got to be really careful because even with the post, that post I needed to put it up. Even with the post, we did have to burn one of our accounts. But what we did see and what we've seen in the past 24 hours now, almost 48 hours since that post, is there is a lot of speak of violence. There is a lot of speak of pretty interesting ways of protesting, and very, very little pushback. But a lot of it that we see is networking between different groups that didn't know each other before and have met in specifically in Los Angeles, that have met each other on the streets. And they're preparing. They're preparing for. I do think that we will, like I said, I do think that we will see violence on Saturday. But most of it that I've seen is them planning for future events. Just not just a No Kings protest, but that's basically, without burning any more of our sources. I could tell you what I see is concerning, and concerning in the fact that they are organizing. They are talking about violence. It's not like they're not talking about violence. They're talking about violence, and they're encouraging it.
Yeah, they are. The really scary thing, Enrique, and why I wanted to show that chart during my monologue and talk about the AFL-CIO is that chart shows the National Endowment for Democracy org chart that has the International Republican Institute on it and the National Democratic Institute on it as part of the controlled opposition construction in this country that we think is enabled the Uniparty to keep itself in power, but also the AFL-CIO is right there with them as one of the two major players for conducting color revolutions in other countries. And this stuff smells and looks to me, when you look at this no kings construct and what we're seeing, like an attempt or the beginning of attempt for a really, no kidding, attempt at a color revolution, whether it's at the state level, in certain states or at the federal level, doesn't really matter to me. It looks like they're using the same tool.
Now, something that's what we've seen in the past, and something that's actually very, very concerning to me isn't just these chats, because there's this unwritten chain of command, and we saw this a lot during Trump's first term. Back then, a lot of Democratic lawmakers were vocal and were pro Antifa, and they were pro BLM. And now we're seeing the entity shift, and I'll touch on that a second. But what we've seen now with these LA riots is on another level that we did not see in the first Trump term. They're getting support from a lot of sitting senators. They're getting support from a lot of members of Congress, and they're getting a lot of support from Gavin Newsom. Something that we didn't see, even through the Portland riots, we did see the governor at the time be very supportive of the Summer of Love and the Chaz zone, but never to a level that we saw Gavin right now, where he's physically fighting back, and he's physically saying, him and the mayor, and I'm gonna include all those people that I just said. They're saying that these protests are peaceful. For one, it's not a protest. It's a riot. And then they show you the image of these people singing, and they're saying, I just saw a post this morning by a congressman showing a woman dancing, and they're saying, they were taunting the president. They're like, Secretary of Defense, please send in the FBI. The Marines, actually, is what it said. And they're doing it on purpose, but their messaging fails because we're seeing these images. CNN is playing these images, even though they're pretending it's nothing. They're playing these images. They're all over TV. They're all over social media. So the American public isn't stupid anymore, and they're watching it, and they're seeing these Democrats saying that this is peaceful, and the videos aren't showing that. So will this help in the midterms? I think so. I'm pretty black-pilled on the midterms, but for the most part, I do see a concerted effort by the entire team. It's like a team sport at this point, and our team's not playing. Our team's just sitting back.
Yeah. It's I don't know if you saw it before we came on or not, but Senator Alex Padilla, U.S. Senator, was arrested. And he was arrested, I think, because when I saw the video of him and Secretary Noem's press conference out there in L.A., I think it was in L.A., he appeared to be getting aggressive physically and violent, verging on violence and everything. And, the speech and debate clause in the Constitution doesn't cover that kind of crap. But no, are you surprised that a sitting U.S. Senator is going that far in this?
Colonel, that's what they want. They want the cameras trained on them. They want to show that they're resisting. They want to show that that they're against the system. I mean, look at the name of the protest on Saturday. No Kings. So they're playing this narrative. It's not converting people, but it is radicalizing their base. It is radicalizing their base. And he wants to be arrested. He wanted to be arrested. The congresswoman, and I forget her name now, the one that was indicted by Alina Habba in New Jersey.
Yeah, McIver or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think she wanted it. I think she wanted a show, and she didn't think that she was going to be arrested. And I find it so poetic. I love Alina Habba for doing this. I find it so poetic that one of the charges that almost every January 6er got was the 18 USC 111A, which is what she was charged with. And people think that that's just for assault. No, if you impede an officer, which it was how it was used on January 6th, because people didn't touch officers, if they used it on her, but with the assault charge, because we've seen the video. So I find it extremely poetic that they charge her with the 111A. But what we saw with the senator from California, I think he wanted to show, he went to a press conference. He knows that there's cameras, and he acted out. He knew how members of law enforcement were going to react. And I think also I haven't gotten to see the entire video, but if he did put hands on those police officers, and if he did push back, I think that the same charge applies. The charge, the 18 USC 111A. And I believe if a grand jury finds it to be true, I think he should be indicted. And I think that both of that senator and the congresswoman should serve the 7 to 10 years, which is what most of the January 6ers that had that charge got sentenced to.
Exactly. Wow. Well, we got to take a break, Enrique. When we come back, I'll show another little cold open with guidance for the No Kings operation. And I'm not calling it a protest, a demonstration, or even a riot at this point. It's a direct action operation. This is a paramilitary operation, folks. We'll be right back with Enrique Terrio, the Proud Boys. And this is a phenomenal interview so far. And it's a public service announcement, really, to help Americans that love this country to stay safe, but also to help assist law enforcement and report things if you need to. We'll be right back on Truth Thursday.
Important PSA for anybody that's going to be protesting soon, especially if you're going to the No Kings protest this Saturday, June 14th. Please, just for now, put away your pride flags, put away your Palestinian flags, put away your Mexican flags, bring out your American flags. The optics at this June 14th protest are going to be massive. You're going to have local media and national media covering these protests because they are happening nationwide. So what you need to do is show up with your American flag. So when this is broadcast all over major networks, on TV, online, in social media, is the American people will see that this president is deploying military forces against the American people. We don't want this to look like America against Mexicans or America against trans communities or queer communities. We need to show what's really happening, which is that this president is using military forces against its own people. Please bring your American flag with you. You can fly it upside down, which is a signal for distress. But please consider the optics for this June 14th protest. Be safe all.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, folks, and my guest today is Enrique Terrio of the Proud Boys. in my opinion, look, this American man has had his rights the most abused of any living American by the federal government that I've ever seen. And we appreciate him coming on. I appreciate what he has the courage to continue to do, which is tell the truth about what is happening with people that want to destroy our country. And like all the rest of us, gets attacked for it. And Enrique, I had to show that clip because I know you've been watching the anti-ICE operation going on out in California very closely, and I'm sure you've seen the Palestinian flags, the Hamas flags, obviously the Mexican flags, but also the hammer and sickle red communism flags. And when you look at the groups, I just scratched the surface in my monologue that are supporting this. There's a big scroll of them out there on the X. They're 99% socialist and Marxist and communist, for quite honestly. And the ones that aren't are Islamist and pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinian. All of those are violent ideology and are antithetical to America.
Well, it's funny because we just talked about this, and basically what we saw there is the same thing that we've seen in these chats, right? And they dress it up. She's in a button-down polo. She's in the kitchen. She's giving this message because what they're trying to do, what they see that's not working with the messaging is those flags. They see that Americans are turning, and they see the polls because there was a poll that was done on Tuesday, two separate polls. And it showed that 69% of Americans agree with Donald Trump and his use of the National Guard and the 700 Marines being deployed into Los Angeles. So they see that the messaging is not working, so they're tweaking the message. So we're seeing at the bottom level, they're going to try to blame the violence on conservative groups, like I said, including the Proud Boys. And then what they're doing with this is they're dressing it up a little bit because there's multiple levels. There's that lower level I talked about. There's this level that we see on social media, and then you get your elected representatives and celebrities and influencers and things like that. And they know the messaging is not working, so they're trying to tweak it with American flags. I don't think they'll go as far as to wear MAGA hats, but that's what they want. They want the optics of American flags waving with the National Guard and law enforcement there. Is it going to work? Absolutely not. At this point, you can't change the messaging. So the only thing that they could do is make sure it quells down for a while and then bring it back up at some point later on. I don't know why they picked the summer out of all the seasons. They picked the summer. It's so hot to be out there, especially in Los Angeles. But we're seeing it. We're seeing that message go through the channels, and we're seeing it. We're seeing this in real time, and you're not going to fool Americans. This is the Democratic voting base. This is the liberal agenda, and this is what we're going to see if we lose the midterms. And this is what you're going to see if they steal the election again and install a liberal in the White House. We continuously, they're telling us who they are, and they're being even more open about it. So I honestly, I couldn't be happier. And one of the reasons why I say that maybe that these events should be avoided is because you can't never interrupt your enemy while they're making a mistake. That's a Napoleon quote. So these cities that are burning, I feel horrible that these cities are burning, but where's this happening? In democratic cities, democratically run cities. You're not seeing these protests that are going to happen here in Miami. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We have a really good governor. We have in our city, we have a very the last red metropolis in the major metropolitan city in the United States. So that's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen in Florida.
Yeah. We've got one scheduled just a mile and a half from my house here in Gulfport, Mississippi. They just they just tried to steal the election using of the mayor using Stacey Abrams money and all those Marxist National Democrat money and everything. But they lost, so now they're going to come in and do these operations with the No Kings thing. And our governor's the same way. He's already said publicly, hey, I've got all kinds of tools at my disposal, and I will use them. So I don't think you'll see much of it. But I agree with you. I wanted to get your take on that, especially the flag thing. And I'm glad you brought up the MAGA hat, because it reminded me that there's believed, and I believe it, that a lot of Antifa were disguised as MAGA on January 6th. So I always try to keep that in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about, am I going to go to some event like that, like this, that could be, people get overheated emotionally and those kind of things. And what are my precautions going to be? Because it happened, and it happened easily. I mean, I honestly think Ashley Babbitt was killed partially because of actions of a disguised Antifa person or two, quite frankly. And so it's very serious business. But it does remind me that we're not as good on our side at communicating, because I was at the Million Man March and back in the Obama day when he closed down the World War II memorial. I was there, and of course this guy carrying a Confederate flag shows up. Of course, we ran him off, but the media got him. And the same guy showed up inside the Capitol on January 6th. So I wish our side had the discipline to not do dumb things like that. Yeah. But it's very serious. So from a violence perspective and safety of your person and all that, isn't it?
Yeah. So to touch on the subject of Antifa and BLM being at January 6th, Christopher Wray committed perjury when he denied, knowing full well that there were members. The Proud Boys didn't just learn how to infiltrate chats. We've been doing that for a very long time. And before January 6th, and I'll repost it on my Twitter account so you guys can see it. We do have chat logs pre-January 6th, where for two reasons they decided to dress as Trump supporters. One, obviously they wanted to infiltrate and made us look bad. And two, they were actually afraid of the Proud Boys showing up, because obviously there was two huge Million MAGA marches in DC in November and December. And we do have those chat logs, and we do have many videos and evidence. And one of them is, his name's John Sullivan, which is a BLM and Antifa activist out of Utah that has gone to many events, including Portland, on Antifa's side. And he's very open about it. And he came with a whole crew from his BLM posse in the Capitol. And it was very obvious that these people were not Trump supporters. While I was in the DC gulag, some of these Antifa activists came into what we call our pod. Obviously, we did not let them stay very long. We'll go into details on that. But yes, there was. And Christopher Wray lied to the American public, committed perjury, and said that he saw zero evidence of Antifa or BLM being involved in the January 6th protest. So,
wow.
That would be an easy get if I was Attorney General. And if I was Attorney General, we'd need to open up new prisons. But regardless of the fact, that's an easy get for the DOJ right now. Another easy get for the DOJ right now is Merrick Garland. He is guilty of contempt of Congress, something that we saw with Peter Navarro, something that we saw with Steve Bannon. He was actually referred to the DOJ for prosecution by Representative Luna. And I think the statute of limitations has not passed. So Steve Bannon did 3 months. Peter Navarro did 3 months. Merrick Garland should do a lot more, but at least for this crime, he should be arrested on site and put through trial, and he should do 3 months in federal prison.
Yeah, I agree with you. What are your thoughts on, before we go to this break, what are your thoughts on the amount of time it's taking? I mean, look, we just went over 100 days into this administration. Uh, Judge Pirro now is the second nominee for the D.C. U.S. Attorney, and it hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think he's acting right now. I expect them to get some arrests made of big names like the two you just mentioned, because the evidence is clear that they have enough evidence for indictments, no doubt about it, to make those charges and go through a trial. Look, it's not a what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's a look, you've set a precedent here, and we're going to follow the precedent set, because that's the only way you have a prayer of ever stopping this, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, looking back at the cases against J6ers, I think to this point, I might be a little bit off, but I think at this point in the game, Merrick Garland would have already arrested about almost 550 January 6ers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm patient. I know that cases take time, and I understand that completely. But now look at the facts of some January 6 cases. Some January 6 cases that the individuals were arrested in 2021. They were able to push their trial past the election of 2024, past January 20th of 2025 this year.
Wow.
So these arrests need to happen soon, because we don't know what's going to happen in 2028. So if we don't start arresting them now, they're going to use delay tactics, and they're going to delay justice in order to hope that they get a more favorable attorney general or president. Yeah. And again, I'm patient, and I know things take time. I think Jeanine Pirro is going to do an excellent job. Because of my situation, I don't want to get into the situation with Pam Bondi right now. We currently have civil litigation against the DOJ, the FBI, and a couple others that were Jane and John Doe's. We ran into a little snag yesterday, but we hope to be back on our feet with our lawsuit within the next week. I just found out about this a little while ago, and hopefully justice will be served for the January 6ers.
Yeah. Well, we got to take another break, Enrique. When we come back, I want to get your take on paid protesters. You'll see a little clip of that, and we can talk more about the situation with the legal situation, because that's the part. I don't think a lot of people know the whole story, and we need to talk about that. We'll be right back with Enrique Terrio of the Proud Boys right here on Truth Thursday.
I just got offered $200 a day to go protest ICE in New York. The organization was called No Kings. They said June 14th we're going to be protesting, and these are the streets that you need to be on, and this is what you need to do. You need to cause chaotic disruptions, and they said that there's going to be pallets of like bricks and different things everywhere that protesters could use. They really want to wreak havoc. It's it's kind of ridiculous. Me as an American, you know, although I need the money, I'm like, this is very, very unpatriotic. If I was to go take this money and go protest, it's not very American. It's not what I stand for. It's obviously not even, you know, worth the time. But, you know, $200 a day is what they're paying people to go protest. The corruption is up here because it goes way beyond these organizations. They want to destroy America, and you know, people like me that need money are gonna go do it. I'm not gonna go do it, but people are gonna go do it. They're gonna go destroy, you know, the city and cause chaos. It's just crazy that, you know, they're even paying people to go do this. It just goes to show that everything we deal with is corruption, and these people at the top level, like, who's paying for this? There's got to be some billionaires paying for this so that, you know, they could try to get Trump out or something. But, you know, $200 a day to go cause chaos is, like, crazy. Not worth it, but also, like, really fucked up.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday here on Worldview Tube, and my guest is Enrique Terrio. I don't need to introduce him to you. Enrique, I wanted to get your take on that because I remember the first time I saw we had gotten video of cash payments being exchanged in the protest. I think it was the first Million MAGA protest after the election in 2020, if I remember correctly, where I saw the first video of that. And then just a couple of months ago, I interviewed a guy that started a company. That's what he does, is he hires and pays protesters for clients that hire him. But this video is being called out on my timeline as fake and all that, but it's very credible what this guy is saying. Are you surprised, though, that we've come to this level of sophistication?
I'm not surprised because this has been an ongoing thing since the beginning of 2016. And, you know, I wish I knew where they get their money because we protest for free. You know, we go support our president for free. The Proud Boys, and just a little caveat with the Proud Boys, we don't accept donations. We don't have a donation site. We don't ask you guys to donate. We don't even ask our own guys to pay dues. We know that when you start installing like a financial apparatus in most organizations like the Proud Boys, it starts going downhill because then you start getting people in power that shouldn't have it. But there is a lot of evidence that we've seen with these left-wing protests that they are paid. And a lot of this, and not just paid directly because there's evidence of that, but we're seeing it with these protests that are going to happen on Saturday. They put these things together for the purpose of networking. They put these things together for the purpose of communicating. And in the last segment, you're 100% right. You know, we don't have that. You know, we do what we love to do, and we don't charge anything for it, or we don't try to make a buck out of it. I don't promote a donation page. If somebody needs help, I will post their Give, Send, Go or their GoFundMe if they genuinely need help. But for the most part, the left has, for a very long time, the left has been very good at organizing. The left has been very good at raising money. And the left has been very good at putting boots on the ground at these protests. And when they see that the messaging stops working, they'll change the name. And we could go back to the right after the midterms when we had this Occupy Wall Street movement, which I think gave birth to the following movements that happened after that, because it created a way for them to communicate and organize. And then we saw the BLM movement start in 2014 at Ferguson, and then go through the Trump presidency, which I was honestly surprised that they went through the BLM movement for such a long time. Then at the beginning of the Trump presidency, they kind of shifted and they went to the Antifa name, which is such a convenient name because if you're against Antifa, you know what that means. Yeah. But really, you know, their tactics are fascist. And we keep moving forward where the Antifa name didn't bode well with the public. And they shifted again. And I think that what we're seeing in the streets of Los Angeles and what we're seeing across the country is that next phase. It's the next stage in the evolution, but it's the same tactics. It's the same people. It's the same organizers. George Soros won't be around for much longer, but his son is the perfect embodiment. He's a young George Soros. So when we see those things, we can't pretend that they're new. Right now what we're seeing is we saw Nancy Mace post this and I was laughing, and the top was like somebody waving the BLM flag, and then like the new thing is BLM with Mexican flags and Palestinian flags. They're honing in on their message. And they're starting to see very early in the game that it's not working. So that's why you're seeing videos like the one that you played in the previous segment that they have to bring American flags to fit their narratives.
Okay. One of the things that I've noticed recently, now the anti-ICE demonstrations shifted this a little bit, but the president won the Hispanic demographic in tremendous ways. It's never been done before by a Republican. But the other interesting piece of the demographics was the 18 to 25-year-old demographic. So you've seen a lot of old people, boomer types, even older than me, at some of the protests leading up to the anti-ICE stuff. And at the beginning of the anti-ICE, it was boomer, but then it shifted very quickly. Within 24 hours, I started seeing younger people in these demonstrations and riots and everything. And they're the ones that know where to go find the pallets of bricks. That tactic, which has been used, I saw it the first time firsthand. I got called over to New Orleans during the BLM summer when they had the big 4,000 person protest in Jackson Square over there. Leading up to that, we got intel that talked about them putting pallets of bricks. And at first I was like, I don't believe that. I mean, there's construction sites in every city, you know what I mean? But the intel operative that was working with me called me over to the city and said, drive over here. I'm going to show you these so that you believe it. And that's the first time I reported on it. But they continue to get away with that tactic. And then we saw the guy with the bionic mask, the face shields and everything. And the main reason I showed it that Walmart clip is that Walmart's the place you can get that in mass, even though they're denying any connection to Christy Walton there and everything. So there's a massive resourcing structure that's funded by much more than just donations. And the AFL-CIO last year got over 75 million tax dollars in grants, in federal grants. They probably didn't spend it all overseas.
Something that we're seeing with the younger demographic too, like those are the soldiers, they're disposable. They could throw the bricks, they could get arrested. It doesn't matter. They don't care. Because they have many of them. They have many radicals, and that's what happens in these group chats. They radicalize people, and they promote the idea of violence. And then we see, one of the scenes that was the most chaotic and one of the craziest scenes that we saw coming out of LA is, you remember when all the police officers were right under the overpass and they were lobbing pieces of cinder block and rocks at them. Those are disposable. We could arrest, from the videos I've seen, we could arrest tens of thousands of them for doing that. It's not going to matter to them because they're disposable. And something that I love about our side is one of ours is worth 1,000 of theirs. I saw it with January 6th. It's still, for us, it's no man left behind. We do have 3 J6ers that are still locked up for January 6th, and we're still fighting for them because they shouldn't be there. If it was a Democrats and they had 10,000 people in prison, they wouldn't care. Have have you seen one of them complain about these violent arrests? No, because they're disposable. They don't care. They paid them their money. They threw the rocks. They provided the resistance. They already communicated with others. They already radicalized others. And to them, they don't care. They're disposable. They're disposable.
Yeah, I've noticed that about the very few that like from the Seattle riots at the federal courthouse there and Portland, and then I think wasn't the Sullivan guy, was he convicted and put in jail? Is he in jail now from January 6th, the BLM guy?
The only reason
they don't care.
The only reason they actually arrested him, and they haven't arrested the other, they did arrest some of the other Antifa BLM activists that we did have their names, was the fact that there was an outrage that he wasn't arrested because I guess he was open and he had a podcast and things like that. And only after we exposed him as a member of Antifa and BLM was when they arrested him. Because remember, it's also an optics game. So they could say, oh, well, we arrested this guy too.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what we saw on January 6th. And what we saw on January 6th, I got charged with sedition. And to give you what the modern meaning of sedition is using force to prevent the government from executing any law, right? And I do feel like that is very broad. And two things would satisfy me. Either you start arresting these people that are stopping these ICE from arresting people that should be arrested, and charging them with sedition, or take that law off the books, because I do believe the law is unconstitutional. We saw that with John Adams. John Adams passed the sedition acts, and it was within 2 years the law was gone because it was pointless. And we got the law resurrected after the Civil War, and then it was tweaked late in the 1800s to be a lot more broader. And the law goes all the way back to the 1300s, where they needed a charge that was right under treason, that focused on speech. And then that's what we're getting today. So again, two things would satisfy me: charge them with sedition, or take the law off the books.
Yeah, exactly. Equal treatment under the law, or don't have that law. One of the two. Well, we got to take our last break, Enrique. When we come back, you'll see a little clip about your lawsuit case. I don't really want to talk about that because it's an ongoing case, but I want to give you a chance to give us an update on the Proud Boys that were harmed by the over prosecution, the overreach, the abuse of their rights. Talk about the future and what people should be doing to protect themselves and protect their country from this crazy communist outrage that's out there that just wants to destroy the United States of America. We'll be right back with Enrique Terrio.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
These are
For 4 years, we fought to defend our innocence against a relentless assault on our constitutional rights. Today, we defend no more. Today, we go on the offense. This is Enrique Tarrio, Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, Zachary Real, and Dominic Pizzola versus the United States government. Specifically, the Biden administration and its ruthless campaign to rob us of our liberties and terrorize our families. And this is the first step.
What I saw happen to the J6 people, and in particular to my clients, indicates to me that there's a lot of muck that needs to be raked out of the stables of the Department of Justice. And I hope that this lawsuit is the first step to bringing back an equal application of the law to all American citizens.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday. That's what this show, the genesis of it, was all about when I started doing this for free, is becoming an independent media person to help get the facts and the truth out. And the story of the Proud Boys is extremely important for the facts and the truth to be in front of the American people and people around the world about them, because they have been under assault from a liberty perspective for no good reason. As a matter of fact, these are the men that I've watched for years. I've interviewed Joe Biggs 3 times on my show over the years. I've watched them for years push back against this crowd of Marxists, communists, anti-fascists, you name it, Islamists. Those are the violent extremist ideologies that still exist in this country and are going to be acting again on Saturday, the 14th of June, our Flag Day, the day we celebrate our flag and the birthday of the United States Army. And we will push back. That's why I'm doing this show. Enrique Tarrio is my guest today, and I thank him for coming on. Enrique, we do have one question in the live audience. I want to go ahead and take that before we go on and talk about what's happening with the folks that you named in that clip. And I want to ask you some questions about the original criminal trial that I've been curious about. We'll be right back. Let's go to the live audience. Shell, go ahead.
We have Michael, sir.
Yeah, how you doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, I got a brother who's out there. He's a sergeant for LAPD. He's been kind of telling me some interesting things. I'm just calling him, making sure he's all right. But I guess they got some, like all these protesters got numbers written on their forearms, and they're all the same phone numbers. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And when you were talking about stages and things getting set up. Right?
Michael, do you have a question for the Colonel?
Yeah, I was going to ask him. I know that there's a company out there that's called Crowds on Demand, and I was wondering if you ever heard about that, or if you think that could be a connection at all.
That's a question for me?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I've heard of the Crowd on Demand. I don't know if there's any connection to what's going on here. The phone numbers that you are seeing written on their wrists is for a reason, and usually they do it. There's usually different people at the other end of that line. Those are for the people that what's crazy about that. The reason why they write it on their wrist is because when you get arrested, they take everything out of your pockets. And those are people that are ready to get arrested for their cause. Sometimes those numbers are to, I forgot the name of that group. There's a lawyers guild that's ready to defend them. They wear the green hats sometimes. And then other times we've noticed that it is part of an organizing strategy where if they do get arrested, they call the number and they raise money for bail, and they start these give, send, goes that we've seen AOC put out. We've seen Kamala Harris put these out. But in turn, you have to write it on your wrist because you're expecting to get arrested, because you're expecting to go to jail. And this is a number that you're going to call when you go to jail. So already you have the intention of getting arrested. You have the intention of committing an act of violence so they can put you in prison. I know that one of my guys might have more information about that crowds on demand. And I'll look into it and I'll post it on my Twitter with whatever findings I have.
Yeah, I think the Crowds on Demand is the CEO of the company that I interviewed a couple months ago, if I remember correctly, Phil. So, Enrique, you mentioned several names. Joe Biggs was among them, who a guy I consider a friend, even though I've only met him briefly twice, like I've met you in person. But I've been talking with Proud Boys for a long time because I support the effort to push back on this crazy stuff. And for a long, long time, the Proud Boys were the only group showing up in places like, I think, Portland and Seattle both, if I remember correctly, to push back on these crazy people that were just trying to destroy their communities and their cities and everything. And so how is Joe? How are the other guys doing? And are any of them still in jail? Because you mentioned there were still 3 J6ers in prison.
There's 3 J6ers in prison. Their names can be found on my Twitter account. As far as my 4 other guys, they're not in jail, but they also have not been pardoned. I'm the only one that went through a sedition trial that was pardoned. They have their sentences commuted. They're great of spirits. All 4 guys are great of spirits, and I named them on there. It's Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, Zachary Real, and Dominic Pizzola. Again, they're great in spirits, but they do require a pardon, and they are part of this legal action that we have taken against the United States government. And I want to be clear: not too many people have gone on my post and said this, but they're like, "Oh, you're suing the Trump administration?" No, we're not. We're suing the United States government for what was enacted during the 4 years of Biden.
Right.
And we do feel like I think if we get to discovery, I think the American people will get to see a lot of the things that we get to see that we can't talk about. There is a lot of evidence in our case that's still under protective order, and in some cases, some of that evidence is classified information, meaning the DOJ, even if they wanted to, could not release that information. That would be at the pleasure of the president, whether to release those documents or not. I would love for those documents to see the light of day. But I think that when we get to the discovery phase is when this is going to get really ugly for the United States government and what it did during the Biden administration and the tactics that they used. You know, when we see these people on the streets burning cars and throwing bricks at police, their professional apparatus was sitting at the DOJ for 4 years.
Yeah.
And they had the same tactics, but legal through that whole process. In our trial, you got to see the federal government snoop and listen in to attorney-client privilege phone calls, including calls that had trial strategies in it. You saw them put confidential informants within our legal team. You got to see destruction of evidence. And I'm not making this up. The agent that we put, Special Agent Nicole Miller, which is still employed by the FBI. I hope she stays there because it would be really good for our lawsuit if she stays working for the FBI. So please, Kash Patel, do not fire her just yet. But she destroyed evidence. She admitted to on the witness stand. She made a grave mistake because when you go to trial, we get to go through all her messages with her other FBI agent buddies. She was hoping that our wives cheated on us. She was jealous that we were raising money for legal defense. And she tried to hide those messages from us, but mistakenly, she sent all her messages to our attorney team. And she, instead of deleting the messages, she just hid them. So apparently she didn't know how to use Excel, and we were able to unhide them and show these messages to the public. So I'm hoping when we get to discovery phase, the American public gets to see what the government does to people protest.
We all heard stories. I've only got a little over a minute left here, but we all heard stories about you, and that evidence was used that may have been in an email inbox that wasn't even opened, and you were kept from using exculpatory evidence by the government. Are those facts the truth? I mean, that's what I believe.
Yes, the way that they tried to indict me multiple times and unsuccessfully. And the last time they got a document that was sent to me that was never opened. And their own forensics team admits that it was never opened. But one thing, they said that in our open trial, but they did not say that to the grand jury. They just showed the grand jury the files on my phone. They're like, look, this is what he had on his phone. Yes. When you send somebody something, it's there on the phone. But I never opened it. I never distributed it. I never edited that document. The only thing it shows is that it was unread. Yes, we got even more exculpatory evidence after my sentencing that the government hid from us. So this justice system that you were taught about in grade school with the even scales of justice, it doesn't exist.
And that we have to work really hard to make a correction in that, my friend. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I could go for hours with you. I apologize, but it's only a 1 hour show. You can join us in the space afterwards. The X Space will still be up if you'd like to, folks, and I'll be over there to answer questions too. Enrique Terrio, where can folks find you real quick?
You could find me. It's right here on the lower thirds. It is at NOBLE Noble One, spelled out ONE, at Noble One, and that's on Twitter. You could also go find me on Telegram, Noble Leader. And those are the only two methods right now that I have for social media, because Facebook and Instagram do not allow me on there.
All right. We need to fix that too, my friend. We need to fix that too. And I'll get you back sometime. We can talk some more and do another show on this thing. Well, folks, I'll see you on Monday. It's More Monday. We'll be talking about Iran, and we're at high risk right now of getting drawn into another war in the Middle East. The president ran against it. We are demanding that we go to the ends of the earth to resolve this issue.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Mission for Freedom. I am one of your hosts. I know Zanny Cyrus. Happy Tuesday. We're not midweek yet, so I can't even say we're midweek, but we're almost there. I hope